Is there to get it into the charts? Was this censorship? I think you're going to say yes, aren't you?
Of course it was censorship. I mean, first of all, we didn't set up the group to be evil to anybody. We set up the group because, we set it up 3 years ago. We wanted to have a say. And this... We
set up 3 years ago? This is what?
Yeah.
What?
So we set it up as a bit of a joke, to be honest. We had 500 members up till Monday morning. And then it all just took off. It obviously sparked something in people that they had something to say and weren't being listened to. There was eulogies everywhere, everyone telling us how amazing Margaret Thatcher was. And people were forgetting about all the things that she did to people, the Hillsborough stuff and the miners and travellers and the people that whose lives she destroyed, people she put out of work. And people wanted to have a say. People wanted to make a point. That's why it happened. We were helped by the Daily Mail massively because they created outrage, but that's why it happened. We set it up to have a say, not to... it was a bit of fun. It's a funny thing to do. We're not taking to the streets. We're not rioting. We're not breaking any laws. We are just having a say in a relatively humorous way. In a lot of ways, it's been quite a positive campaign.
Okay, let's Rob Wilson, Tory MP. Good morning, Rob. Are you there?
Good morning.
Are you hearing Janie in East Anglia there?
Yes, I did hear her, yeah.
She says it's censorship. Was it censorship?
Well, I think that the BBC was in a very, very difficult position, and what it arrived at was a good old British fudge. But I don't particularly criticise the BBC for making the decision it did. I think it probably was inevitable with the two sides clashing so full on, as it were. But I was of the view that the record should have been played, however distasteful it was. I can certainly understand that the BBC was very concerned about the feelings of the family who've just lost somebody they loved. And but however horrible it was and however vile it was, I think that it just reflects very badly on a small number of people. But I don't particularly want to censor those people, and I'm sure Mrs. Thatcher certainly wouldn't want it to have censored them. She is a symbol of freedom around the world, even today in places like Russia, Poland, and even further afield. And she would certainly not have wanted any truck with censorship in her own country.
So places like Russia, okay, there was censorship in Russia. They used to tell everybody what to do, what to think. That's what's been happening now.
Well, he's agreeing with you, Janie. He's agreeing with you.
The campaign was set up. They set up a campaign to try and stop us. We've had Louise Minch spreading lies on the internet, telling people that money was going to Rupert Murdoch. There was a
Well,
campaign.
I don't know. I think her point was she was tracing back who actually owns the publishing rights.
Well, it's nothing to do with Rupert Murdoch.
Rupert Murdoch doesn't have any financial interest in the publishing rights of that particular song. You can quite categorically say that. I don't know. I'll look into it. But that was the point she was making.
Warner,
but he's agreeing with you. Does he own that company? I don't know. But,
no, he doesn't.
Okay, but listen. Rob Wilson's agreeing with you, Janie. He's agreeing with you.
Yeah, I know, which is brilliant, but the other Tories didn't. We have had an orchestrated campaign to stop us. Our Twitter was closed down due to mass reporting. Our group went offline for an hour on Saturday at the busiest time. Our Facebook group was frozen.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of negative stuff about us. If you actually looked at the group, there's an awful lot of positive people who are getting fired up about politics because of what we've done. We didn't do this we didn't do this as a hate campaign. We're not hateful people. We are just people who wanted to have a say. And there was, to play the whole I'm in love with Margaret Thatcher song. If you actually look at what that's about, it's not the most pro-Thatcher song you can come up with. It was a bit of a fudge, to be honest. They've kind of totally messed up on
I want you
that
to meet Andrew in Halifax. Andrew, good morning to you.
Morning, Nicky.
What did you say to Janie?
Oh, well, I think the BBC was right to censor the song. I listened to the comments made by Paul Gambaccini the other day when he said that to censor the song would be to allow the principle of free speech to be hijacked. But as far as I'm concerned, the chart was already hijacked by people, left-wing idiots, a visceral agenda against a democratically elected Prime Minister of 3 separate occasions.
But a lot of people didn't vote for her. Her vote, she never got the popular vote. She never got more than 50% of the people wanting to vote for her.
Neither did anybody else.
And are we not allowed to have our say? Are we not allowed to say how we felt about it? We were being ignored by the press. The people who don't agree with what Thatcher did were being ignored by the press. This was our way of having a say without taking to the streets, without...
You can't say you're being ignored now, can you? Andrew,
No,
what's your objection, Andrew, to the expression of free speech?
Well,
However, what about the Voltaire thing? As I don't like what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it.
Well, I think it's mainly to do, Nicky, with the fact that there's a time and a place for everything, and at this time when a family are in mourning, this is most definitely not the time. The other point I'd like to make is that people say that Britain lost its reputation of having a stiff upper lip when Lady Diana died. I think Britain lost its reputation for being a civilised country with the sort of disgusting scenes that we've seen this week. Though, however,
hold on, can I just say that we don't in any way endorse any rioting, violence, nothing.
Janie, let Andrew finish. I will come back to you, I promise.
Yeah.
Andrew, go on, finish.
I was pleased that I was actually pleased though that it did plateau at number 2, because the left have a habit of plateauing at number 2 in this country. They did it in 79, 83, 87, 92, and 2010, and hopefully they'll come in at number 2 in 2015 as well.
Let's follow the yellow brick road to Vivian Patterson. Hello, Vivian, Director of Media Watch. How are you this morning?
I'm fine, thank you.
Was this censorship?
No, I don't think it was censorship. I mean, Radio 1...
Why wasn't the whole record played?
Radio 1 were in an invidious position. They were damned if they did, damned if they didn't, and I think that this was probably the best compromise that could be managed on this occasion. The thing was, in and of itself, the song is not offensive. It doesn't have any sexual content. It doesn't have any rude words. It's not called Mrs. Thatcher's Dead. I think in that regard, then the whole thing was contextual. It was all to do with the context in which it was played. And I think that was probably the right way, actually saying, this song is in, this is why. They were never going to be able to please everybody. I think it was a really good compromise.
Did they make the right decision then in putting the other song, which was at number 35, I'm in Love with Margaret Thatcher, merely playing it and not putting that in a context? Should they have put that in a context?
I think it wasn't at number 35. That's quite different. It's at number 35 rather than number 2. And, we have the Daily Mail to thank for the campaign against the song, against the campaign for Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead. So I think that one kind of slipped in. I don't know about you, but I wasn't expecting that one. I was looking out and listening out for Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead. That one came as a bit of a surprise because we just haven't read about it.
I was expecting it because there was something, I think Janie referred to this as something of a sort of Twitter internet campaign to get it on as a riposte.
And True Blue was another one, wasn't it?
Sorry, Janie?
It was run by Louise Mensch, and her money, all her money went towards that campaign. That's another thing. We haven't spent a penny on any of this. This is just this happened.
How did all her money go towards it? So it's 79p.
Well, because she's got a lot of very rich friends and backers who went and bought the single, and she still only managed to sell 8,000 copies.
Oh, so. it's battle of the charts. Malcolm's on the M25. What do you want to say, Malcolm?
My point of view is that millions of hard-working men were denied their dignity, the dignity that comes with going out, working, to put food on the table for your family. They were denied that dignity, and they deserve a voice. And this record is effectively the voice of the forgotten, the millions that were laid on the scrap heap by her policies, her cruel policies. And I think those people deserve a voice at last.
Rob Wilson, do you think they deserve a voice? Conservative MP for Reading East?
Everybody deserves a voice. As I say, I wasn't in favour of any form of censorship or any form of banning. I am instinctively against any form of that. But as I say, the BBC, I think, shouldn't be criticised because it was in a very difficult position. The sensibilities of the family do need to be taken into consideration. They have lost a parent, and lots of people have lost a very dear friend, and I just think that
lots of people lost people at Hillsborough. They weren't given the rights that they deserved either.
I understand this young lady's passion, but I really think there's a time and a place for, and We've argued about Hillsborough over the years, and Labour government had 13 years to put things right that went wrong at Hillsborough, and they didn't. David Cameron has now put that right.
But what is the time and the place then? Because if we hadn't have done this now, it wouldn't have been heard. We wouldn't have had our say. People would have it would have been wall-to-wall eulogies. The front page of the Mail would have been Margaret Thatcher, what a wonderful human being. And there would not have been any dissent against that at all being heard, except...
Haven't you been listening to the phone-ins? Haven't you been watching the debates? There's been plenty of dissent expressed.
Because of this song. If there hadn't been this song, I mean, on Monday...
No, it's nothing to do with the song. It's to do with legitimate debate about her legacy, which started about 18 hours after she died.
And that debate will go on for a long time to come. That debate will go on for a long time to come.
Are you saying, Rob Wilson, that there should have been a sort of bite-your-tongue attitude until she's buried?
Until the funeral's over and the family have had their chance to grieve. I think that the opposition and the street parties and the sort of vile celebrations that have been going on, I mean, I really just think that was totally inappropriate and actually very un-British, really. And I just think that Jamie feels very passionately about what she feels about, and there would have been plenty of opportunity for her and others to make their point. I don't know how old Janie is. Were you alive during the Thatcher years?
Yeah, I'm 40, so I grew up during Thatcher. So.
Okay, so I mean,
and it's still affecting us now. Her policies are still affecting people now. She brought in...
Really, after 13 years of Labour in government? How are they still affecting
Because Labour were pushed further and further to the right because of what she brought into this country. She smashed the unions. People didn't have a say. I mean, that's called democracy. I don't know whether you noticed. People vote for the party they want to win, and they win. I understand that, but she didn't get the popular vote, did she?
She got an awful lot in the first. She got an awful lot in
she got 43%, 44% of the vote, which is more than Blair often got.
To do it, though, didn't she?
So she won 3 elections, and Mr. Blair won 3 elections.
Yeah, okay.
I think you're rewriting history rather badly, actually.
The thing is that if you want to talk about who won things and the popular vote, I mean, this song got to number 2. I mean, there was a massive surge in the sales for the number 2, at a very strange surge in the sales at 10 o'clock on Saturday night. Up to that point, we were leading all the charts. So, people did have their say. That was a democratic
Do you think
vote.
It's a bit misogynistic?
No, I don't. I thought about this a lot because I've had this thrown at me, and I actually think if you think about the song, it's about freeing the Munchkins from the wicked oppressor. It's not to do with her being a woman.
Do you see yourself as
a wicked oppressor?
You see yourself as a Munchkin in this situation?
Well, there might be some relevance to that.
I think Janie represents a strand of opinion which is very, very angry, and you just get from the tone of her voice and what she's saying, and that's fair enough. People.
Mrs. Thatcher Mrs. Thatcher would celebrate that. She tried to foment that in Eastern Europe. At the time of the terrible oppression by the dictatorships and by the Soviet Union. There, Go on.
What Mrs. Thatcher tried to do was to offer those people in Eastern Europe hope for freedom, and that's why she
offered them capitalism in her way.
That's why she allied with Ronald Reagan. That's why she recognised Mikhail Gorbachev as a man that she could do business with. That is why the Berlin Wall came down. That is why there's freedom in Eastern Europe, because Thatcher and Reagan faced down the Soviet Union. And
Janie, was the Berlin, just one before we move on, never mind yellow brick roads, what about Berlin Walls? Was the Berlin Wall coming down a good thing, Janie? Just interested to know.
Oh, of course it was.
Right,
yeah, absolutely. Freedom and democracy. That's what it's about.
What about South Africa?
Sorry?
What about South Africa?
Who's that?
She was anti-apartheid.
Is that Malcolm?
Apartheid, sorry. She's back to Clerk.
Yeah.
She did wonders there, didn't she?
Rob Wilson, a quick one on that. I know we're getting on to policy and legacy rather than censorship, but Rob Wilson, do you want to quickly respond to that?
On South Africa? Well, I mean, she certainly supported sanctions against South Africa. She certainly tried very hard to get the FW de Klerk to see the light in the same way that she did the Eastern Europe.
You're saying she supported
the terrorism organisation. That's very different from calling Nelson Mandela a terrorist. You see, these are these urban myths that these left-wing people start to propagate. This is not true. Thatcher never called Mandela a terrorist. She called the ANC a terrorist organisation.
Are you saying she supported sanctions?
She did support sanctions, yes.
All right, listen, we're going to leave it there, but let's go on to censorship. Was the BBC right not to play this song in full? It's 9:22, 0500 909 693.